park a vehicle that is above, or longer than our 33-foot, can certain people apply for a variance if they have like a beautiful 45-foot RV or something like that, and they've had that for years in their property?
They can because sometimes they have like a larger front setback. Or they
Okay,
have
yeah.
like a.
And it'll be
like
case to
yeah,
case.
yeah,
Gotcha.
like it.
That was
All
the
right.
point, yeah.
Good. I just wanted to make sure that we could have, because there are some people who legitimately do not rent RVs. They're RVs, but they have like jumbo RVs, which are beautiful, but they have the space for it most of the time. I just wanted to say something else, which may or may not involve you. Oh, by the way, speaking of giving people a chance, if we find them living in the RVs and then they're not going to be booted out right away. One of the and the severity clause, I'm sorry, not the severity clause, the G, right? On G in page 7, it's a 60-day. Once we find the violation, they're given a warning to correct the violation. They have 60 days. So if somebody's living in there, now they've got 60 days to move out before the homeowner starts getting fined. One more question or two more questions. All right, does this take effect immediately? Do we know, sir?
Say it again, sir?
Or Alex, does this, upon the mayor signing this, would this take effect immediately? Is my understanding?
That
Okay.
was, yes.
So tomorrow, people could start getting fined for this. That, I don't want to panic everybody. Not that it's going to happen, but I mean, as soon as the mayor signs it, right?
The ordinance is effective on the mayor's signature. However, that's why we gave the 60-day
That's
period.
right, a grace period.
And one last. Okay, that's the 60-day.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And one last thing, I don't see it in the ordinance. Perhaps I didn't look clearly enough in all the backups. Is our city registration, that concept, is that gone? Or they still have to register it right with
We
us?
put it- yeah, we
Because
put it-
otherwise, how do we find a violation? By sight? Do we determine if it's oversized or, right?
Right.
Okay,
No,
so
that
that's
is
in our backups. It's still there.
Yes.
Good. I just didn't have time to read 54 pages today or something like that. Yeah. Thank you.
It
I'm
is-
good. I'm good.
Okay. It's there.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we have a motion as amendment by Councilmember Tundidor, and we have a second by Councilmember Perez. Madam Clerk, please call. roll.
Mr. Tonidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zaghi,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
No.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
No.
Ms. Perez. Motion carries. The item is approved.
All right. Thank you. All right, next item.
First reading of proposed ordinance amending chapter 98 of the City of Hialeah Code of Ordinances entitled Zoning, Article 6, Supplementary District Regulations, Division 3, Building and Structures, creating a new section 98-1681 to allow mobile food dispensing vehicles, also known as food trucks, to operate in the city subject to certain operating standards, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for penalties for violation hereof, providing for severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. This item, again, is in first reading, and I just kind of want to, I'd like to highlight some of the top points and then obviously have a discussion with the council. We, in putting together these guidelines, again, it's always good to see what other municipalities are doing, right? It's not always the best approach to do the first thing you think of, and to move forward. So we wanted to see how other municipalities conducted order and made sure that there was the quorum. Which one's that one? We are on the food truck item.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take up the food truck item. No, I was actually going to talk about the meeting rules. Okay, I've been fasting all day. Okay, so let's do the food trucks. Any questions on that? Any comments?
Brian Forte.
Brian, 1 second. So this is actually in first reading?
Oh.
Yeah, so we'll pick it up again in 2 weeks, okay, for public comments.
I just, want to make clear that there were a couple changes that we had discussed making within the ordinance itself. If you go to subsection D, paragraph D, the property zones that they're allowed on, C2, TOD, and NBD. Deborah and I had discussed also allowing it in general industrial areas to make it more broad. And then I know, Mr. Zogby, you had a question about the ease of having a food truck within the city or actually the difficulty of having a food truck in the city. And I just want to make clear that if you look at D and all the steps below D, the numbered, you only would need to go through that process. And we had discussed making that process a little bit easier between now and second reading. You would only need to go through that process if the parking variance has been granted where you intend to place the food truck. So if you intend to place your food truck in an area where there has no parking variance and all the parking has been complied with, you wouldn't have to comply with all the following steps that you see below D.
Would that be, I'm sorry, through the chair? So they wouldn't be required as part of the requirements to get our BTR to turn in a site plan all the time? They wouldn't be required
Right.
for planning, for zoning approval?
We created, we have a draft brochure. It's
Mm-hmm.
a form, one-page form. Basically, you will need to check the things in that form and provide a sketch. The same way
Okay.
when you go and ask for an alcohol license, it asks for a sketch that you can do yourself.
Okay.
Or you can use a Google picture. We will
And
facilitate and work with each of the applicants.
Aside from a location that doesn't have a parking variance, that would qualify approval, maybe, right? Does it still have to have enough parking to accommodate
Yeah.
now the food truck, the addition of the
We
food
have to
truck?
analyze because, for example, if we have one of those industrial properties
Mhm.
that they are built up to the property line.
Yeah.
And the only parking that they have is 2 parking spaces on the right
Very
of way. Well, there we will say no. But if we see that they have a yard where they can, where they park and there is available parking, there's no problem.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Deborah, I have a question. So some food trucks don't have a spot that they go to every single time. They may move around. Is there a provision, or if we contemplated a provision that would for lack of a better term, give designated areas that are like pre-approved,
Yeah.
where someone could go ahead and if they move from one location went to another, they just go into a place that's already pre-approved.
When they apply, we left a space there for all the locations where they plan to be. Maybe Mondays they are on location A, Tuesdays on another location, so they can put there all the locations where they
Okay.
usually will
All
be.
right, and to the council, my personal feelings on this is I don't want to I don't want to be over restrictive to people's opportunities come and do business and what have you. I think food trucks, as we've all seen, have evolved in a way that almost create really a happening on their own, right? But I do believe we have to have some sort of coordination at least, so we know who's in our city, who's doing these kind of things. Heaven forbid something happens, and then it's us that have to deal with this. And also one other question. How does this apply, or does this apply at all to what I've seen also happen is ghost kitchens that are literally also in trailers, right? Would they have to just adhere to the same standards that we're creating now?
Well, the one ghost kitchen that I know in the city is next to a place, so they are connected to the whole building. It's like
Okay.
it's not that they come and go, so it's a different situation.
All right, so let's just think about, before we come back on second reading, I think I had told you when we met and we were discussing this stuff, there are ghost kitchens that work through different apps, and they don't have a brick and mortar place, but they prepare food. And I'll use the example, what happened to me with my son, Mr. Beast Burger. He was bugging me about Mr. Beast Burger. Didn't know where the heck is this Mr. Beast Burger. You could get it online. It turns out they had a ghost kitchen in by Biscayne Park or something, in an industrial area. That's where their ghost kitchen was. Only way to order was online.
Right.
And I found that kind of interesting. So it's not just a food truck in the sense that they're serving for customers. On this, Mr. Beast Burger, you had to order online, you could go by and pick it up, or somebody else drove by to pick up for delivery. And I just found that kind of interesting. So there's, in this space, there's even other kind of things. There's others that set up tables and all this. They're not interested in setting up tables. They were just interested in dispensing food. And I could see a lot of that in our industrial area also. Again, they don't want to set up tables and chairs, no lights or anything like that, other than what they have for their trailer. And all they're doing is just kicking out food to Uber Eats and DoorDash or whoever else that comes by. So I just want to think through that to just make sure, you know, if we're allowing it, again, I have no problem. Again, where would we allow it for it to happen? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Right, do we have a motion?
Through the chair.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
Oh, I thought you were gonna make more comments on it. I'll just jump on this
Yeah.
here. Deborah and Alex, possibly, if I have your permission to call them
Sure.
up again. Under, I guess, they're not numbered, but I guess page 4 would be under subsection B licensing. Pursuant to this section or as permitted by a special event. So it's either or. It's not, this is just doesn't apply in this case to a special event, right? This particular licensing, because it's different than our BTR. You follow what I'm saying? This is different, subsection B of what would be page 4 under, let's see. Mobile food dispensing vehicles. So under licensing subsection B, right? Are you there? That's different than our BTR, right? Is that referring to a special event, like a food truck event or something like that? All right, thank you. Possibly Yesenia would know, but Alex, you would too. Under C, subsection C, our BTR, are we going to also require, if they come, when they come to us to apply for a license to have a food truck, are we going to require that they give us a copy of their county and state required, but the wording is not here. It's under licensing has some wording on the DPPR regulations, which is also required by the county, but on our BTR, on the requirement list, that's not there.
Well, I'll include.
Am I missing it?
I'll include it.
Because I know Yesenia Greer, she did want that
Yesenia's on,
there.
she's raising her hand, actually.
She is?
Yeah.
I think she did, but I don't
Go ahead,
see the
Yesenia.
wording.
Good evening. How are you? Yesenia Gruich, business tax official. So that actually doesn't have to be a written requirement only because it is a state statute.
What was that again?
She said it was a
Yesenia?
state statute.
To
So yeah,
require it?
Yeah.
in chapter 205, in order for us to issue a business tax receipt, we must, if it's licensed by a regulatory agency like the state, we have to have a copy of that on file in order to issue it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in the documentation. It's already a state statute that we go by anyways.
Okay, very good.
And
So they
Mayor,
will have that, they will have that on their list when they come to apply, like what they
Okay.
need to provide, right?
Yep.
yes.
they'll be
they
told,
will have
right?
a checklist
Obviously.
and the application and whatnot. I do want to answer because I couldn't mute myself. There was a question about ghost kitchens. We did meet with a company that wanted to put ghost kitchens in the city of Hialeah. And we are all for that. However, I know that the requirements are a little different only because when I met with the company that did the one down in, I believe in Brickell, they had some additional DERM requirements because they have to be connected directly to Bootstrap. So that was the only thing that I'm sure they need to pull some type of permit to be able to connect.
Okay,
As more, even if they're there for 6 to 8 months or a year, be able to connect correctly and whatnot.
okay. We'll take that offline then, Yesenia, with the teams then. Thank you.
Thanks.
Council, anything else?
Yesenia, now that you're on, you'd probably know this better. What's our projected price for the BTR on a food truck yearly?
I believe it's just gonna be $250 a year.
Okay.
And
And, go ahead.
we're gonna issue decals on those as well.
Right, and okay, to identify those vehicles who have purchased the BTR or paid for it. Will the BTR is to be renewed yearly. Are the
Correct.
requirements also, I guess, planning and zoning or you're
No,
saying-
once you're approved the first time that you go through your requirements, unless you're doing some type of changes, like going to a new location, or you sold your food truck and you're transferring it to somebody else, you wouldn't be required to actually reapply. You would just be going through a renewal process.
You just renew your BTR. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
All-
you.
I'm good.
All righty, perfect. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilmember
Second.
Zogby, second by Perez. Call the roll.
Mr. Tumnidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo is away, Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco is away, Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries, the item is approved.
All right.
Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for February 13, 2024.
11H, please.
Proposed resolution amending the rules and procedures for the city council meetings of the city of Hialeah in a form as attached hereto and made a part hereof as Exhibit 1 and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, City Clerk. This is the item I was talking about. So pretty much just to make it consistent and similar to other municipalities that.
Through the chair.
conduct-
I
Yeah.
think you should wait for certain members to come back because this pertains to all of us.
Well-
And I think they should
Well,
hear.
that's, I mean,
Right?
if they're not here, we're not going to wait for them, Councilwoman. So I understand what you're saying, but regardless, the rules will be upheld. So,
Yeah.
okay. And so a couple things. First thing, we are asking for folks to sign speaker cards, same way other municipalities have done, City of Miami as well. We have noticed that it's a better way to not just intake, but organize the data that we're able to collect here as far as names, addresses. I don't know how many times I would ask the city clerk, what's that person's name or what's the address? So it's a formality that other municipalities and the county use as well. Second piece there, it also makes reference to as far as the showing pictures and videos. Where what we're asking for is to submit any of those visuals ahead of time to make sure that the city doesn't find any obscene images or videos. In the past, we've had folks come here the day of, give us a USB and say, hey, play this video. We don't know what's playing when we got kids here, right? So it's a step to make sure that again, what's being produced and shown to the public is appropriate for all ages. And then am I missing something else here? Oh, yeah. And then finally, there's been this new phenomena of time sharing, right? Where you speak and then because you want more time than everybody else. Someone else gives you additional time. That's coming to an end, right? There's no longer any more sharing time. You'll speak. If you want more time, then you could request it from the council and it could be granted. But these are things that other municipalities have implemented. And again, I believe we should as well. So I look to have your support.
Motion.
All right, we have a motion
And
by
I
the Vice
second.
President, second by Zogby. Call the roll.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo is away, Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco. 11H.
Yes.
Mr. Tumnidor.
Yes.
Motion carries, the item is approved.
All right, 11I.
Proposed resolution pursuant to the city charter and code of ordinances to appoint William Mark Grodnick as a member of the Oversight Committee of the Elected Officers Retirement Trust for a 2-year term and providing for an effective date.
We have a
Motion.
motion by Vice
Second.
President, second by Perez.
Mr. Calvo is away. Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumnidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Motion carries, the item is approved.
All right, unfinished business. I'd like to just bring something up. Last meeting, I think in December, we had motion to postpone the initial meeting for the Affordable Housing Task Force until we had an official opinion from the county on something that the councilwoman Pacheco had mentioned. The task force has a deadline to sunset, and it's already been over a month. And again, we haven't heard back from the county. However, what we do have is a legal opinion from the city, and we've had multiple conversations with the county. how a similar scenario they saw at the city of Miami with Miami 21. It was an ad hoc task force as well that that brought together industry experts to develop these zoning laws. So again, we don't anticipate anything bad, but what I'm asking for now, though, since we have all those things, we understand we're in a time crunch. I would like for the council to motion to convene the meetings. Again, we're running on borrowed time here, and I want to make sure that we waste no time. These things take a long time to put together, and so I'm asking for the council to motion to
I'll motion.
initiate. Thank you.
And I'll
Thank
second.
you. Motion by the Vice President, second by Councilman Zaghi. Again, if once we get word from the county, official word, then we'll go ahead and discuss it. If there's an issue, which there's probably not going to be, we can go ahead and make the changes needed.
I just want, I can advise you that just as we circulated our own opinion, the moment we get the county's opinion, and we can't control their schedule, but the moment we get it, it will be distributed and, you know. we'll-
Thank you, thank you, sir. So call the roll.
Ms. Garcia Robis.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zaghi,
Yes.
and Mr. Calvo is away. Motion passes.
All right. New business?
Unfinished.
I can handle it, yeah.
Rafael Suarez Rivas, City Attorney, speaks regarding new financial disclosure requirements for local officials effective January 1st, 2024, Form 6.
Good evening. There's a new state law which changed the financial filing requirements for the elected officials from a Form 1 to a Form 6, which is more detailed than the Form 1. Just in summary, the Form 6 is to be filed electronically starting this year. It's due on July 1st. There's a $25 a day fine for being late. There is a lot of help available on the Florida Ethics Commission website. They have many screens, they have many detailed instructions. There was a class on the new form, which I believe was distributed via email, so the officials could attend and look at the forms and view the forms and so forth from the Commission on Ethics, and that may still be available to access. The new form is different in that it's a snapshot of your finances on or about December 31st or a more recent date of your choosing prior to filing. Flyers are to disclose their net worth on or about December 31st or a more recent date of their filing. So the snapshot of your net worth means all your assets subtracting all your liabilities. And it includes intangible. Intangible is like stocks and bonds, insurance policies. Tangible, like a car and real property. Assets over $1,000 individually. Household goods and personal effects collectively. A description of the asset and value, like household furnishings, computer peripherals, so forth. Household goods and personal effects are disclosed on a separate screen. Asset is anything valued at $1,000 or more that can be sold. Most common is a bank account, real property, stock. Liabilities over $1,000 owned on the date chosen. You have to say creditor, name, address, amount. Exclusions for credit cards, indebtedness on a life insurance policy, taxes owed not reduced to judgment, and contingent liabilities. That means liabilities you're not sure if you're going to have to pay. You list all liabilities over $1,000. Exclusions are in the instructions. Most common exclusions, put it this way. Most common are mortgages, car payments, student loans. Income over $1,000. You have to disclose your public salary. Other income over $1,000, disclose it. Source, name, address, and amount. Primary sources of income, items that constitute gross income on a federal tax return, salary, capital gains. You have to include your public salary, may instead attach federal income tax return with all schedules. As to businesses, your secondary sources of income, you have to disclose a business if you own 5% or more of the business, or your income of the business exceeds $1,000, or your client and a customer contributed 10% or more to the business's gross income. Let's say you have a consulting business and you have a client that gave 10% or more of your earnings for that year to your business because you have this large client. You have to disclose that person or entity. Business name, client name, address, client business description. Secondary sources of income are major clients, customers, or business of which you own more than 5%. Major clients and customers supply more than 10% of your business's gross income. You disclose certain businesses, the name and address, the principal business activity, position held, if you own more than 5%, nature of your ownership interest, like, partner, limited partner, LLC member. Particular kinds of businesses are identified in the instructions. Not every business is a specified business. I know that this is more detailed for the officials, and I understand that. Again, Florida Ethics has set up a tutorial. They've set forth the forms. They've posted them online, and I believe they are still offering the 4 hours of training. The other thing I want to mention very quickly is just as part of this item, I'm not advocating it or articulating it, or, I can't speak for the administration, but there is a law firm that's identified in just a template resolution. That law firm is representing a few cities who are challenging this new law as being unconstitutional and invalid. And they have proposed to various cities, just sort of en masse, that if they want to join in that lawsuit, that they are willing to represent the city for a flat fee of $10,000 plus costs. If that's something the city council wants to think about or, consider, that's perhaps for some other meeting soon. But I think we have included that resolution in the backup.
Yes, sir.
And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
So
Yes.
through the chair, if I might.
Yeah, you're right.
Thankfully, they're not asking for a kidney, which is a good thing. But look, I don't want you to overreact. What Form 6 is a requirement for state representatives currently. Form 6, well, it's going to be now for all of us. It was also a requirement when I was on the Board of County Commission. It's not as daunting as one would think. And with a good accountant, you could just, set up your liabilities, your assets and what have you, and it pretty much suffices. We could continue to examine more, but I would be a little cautious with the thoughts of joining a lawsuit. People elect us and they want us to be transparent in the work that we do. And this achieves transparency, right? And Lord knows, we've had enough of elected officials that go and do things that then we all pay the price for. So it's not as daunting as it is. I think the law department's available if you need to meet with them and kind of go over some of these things with them. But there are examples of the Form 6 and how, and I'd be more than happy to share with you the forms that I filed when I was on the county commission. Like I said, they're not too difficult from a standpoint of just listing, what you own and what have you, whatever in your name. And it does create that transparency, I believe. So I just wanted to caution everybody. It sounds a lot worse than it really is, but the state and its wisdom feels that all elected officials across the board should be held to the same standards that they are in Tallahassee. But like I said, they already do this at the county commission level. So for what it's worth.
Okay.
Under new business, unfinished business, I asked Kevin Linsky to come down. Some of you may have seen and others have communicated with me with regards to the ongoing work on West Fourth Avenue, especially if you're trying to take your kid to school like I do in the morning, and running late, and figuring out navigating. So Kevin, I was hoping if you could just speak briefly to the work that's going on there, how long it's going to take, who's doing the work, which I think is also important for people to know, and why are they doing the work?
Kevin Linsky, Public Works Department. Yeah, so the work on Fourth puts about 10 minutes onto my taco run at about noon, which has been unpleasant. But Miami-Dade County has nearly 5,000 miles, more than 5,000 miles of pipe in the public right of way. Going up Fourth, they have an extremely large asset, which is a 54-inch water force main. They do some proactive maintenance on these types of force mains, because if they were to blow, a large portion of a city will be out for a while. They were testing this main a little over a month ago. They have a really piece of interesting equipment where the 54-inch pipe has metal reinforcements within it, and they can use a magnetic device to understand whether that metal reinforcements are starting to fail. These pipe segments on that part of the road were starting to show stress. And so they decided to proactively replace these pipes. So they've completed the first phase. They've got one more phase to go. It started, I believe, last Friday. They're working 24 hours a day, and it's anticipated to last 2.5 to 3 weeks. So in about 2 weeks from now, a little more than that, they should be completed. I think most of the work is between West 41st and 53rd Street. And there are going to be an awful lot of reroutes and slow traffic during that period. And there could be some low water pressures. I was very surprised how few calls we got during the first phase of this, but there certainly could be some calls later.
Right. So thank you. Just in case you've been asked or you've driven into traffic, you realize it. And lastly, Madam Chair, if I might, all of you have received a document. It's the court order from the lawsuit that was brought upon myself from Councilman Kahlo. And I'm not gonna make any comments or statements beyond what I've already said publicly. The lawsuit was frivolous to begin with, and the judge concurred with our opinion. The sad reality is that the residents are going to have to now pay for the bill of the city having to defend itself. And when you can't, this mantra, which unfortunately has happened greatly in our society now, that if you can't legislate, you try to litigate. If you can't get what you want, go to the courts and try to get remedy. And while maybe that's good for those that are lawyers and live in courtrooms, okay? But in the real world, where we have to on a daily basis, okay, provide the service that the residents of the city of Hialeah demand and expect, to be dragged into this circus and sideshow that have been created, in my opinion, the vilifying of a department that works so hard to make sure that they're answering to the residents and the needs of the residents, and has not failed them, and to have reporters come here that have never even bothered to cover the city of Hialeah, other than to try to create or add to the narrative that somehow or another the 911 call center was failing the residents of the city was a gross misjudgment and sad, extremely sad. And to add and then injury to insult, to have to go through this entire charade with press conferences and all that, to look at me what I'm doing, and try to sue the city and put us through this cost, which is really, really unfortunate. And and I just want you to know that we work hard, all of us work hard, most of us work hard, okay, to keep the image of this city. We're raising our families here, we work here, we've all put in our time in this city for a long time to defend it, and to have these things again, for the look at me now, it's really unfortunate. I'm gonna say this, and the 911 center, if the reporters would take the time to do their due diligence and not only report on what goes on in 911, see what goes on countrywide in our 911, they would have come to the quick conclusion that our folks are doing an outstanding job. Okay? If the reporters and the councilman would have done his due diligence, given the information that he did receive, because he received volumes of information, go to the department heads. Go to the department heads and ask them, what is this information? Explain it to me. You would have come to the same conclusion. But you didn't do that. You didn't do that because for you it was more important to read your lawsuit and torture us with the garbage that you put down, to have a judge then throw it out. And now the residents have to pay for your joke, for your charade. Okay, you got elected to help run this city and manage the city, not to call attention to yourself and look at me and chase ambulances around. You give lawyers a bad name when you do that, okay? And I would hope, as we move forward, the residents of the city of Hialeah have entrusted us to do the work for them, to make sure that this city moves forward and is a good place for people to live, okay? Enough with people that trash the city of Hialeah that don't live in the city of Hialeah, okay? Don't we get enough of that already? All right, and it isn't right. It isn't right, okay? And I'm not gonna put up with it, to be perfectly honest with you, okay? But I think all of you should be able to read and see what the judge said, and it was a joke. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you,
All
Mayor.
right, so I'm glad you brought this up because I did want to talk about it. Page 14 of the document you very beautifully handed to everybody. Mayor, you don't have the courage even to sit in the same room.
Are you gonna address or no?
All right, so listen, what the mayor did in front of the judge is he basically said, don't sue me, sue the city of Hialeah. And I want to make that very clear. And it's on page 14. I sued the city. I didn't sue the city of Hialeah ever. I sued the mayor because I don't think the city was at fault here. I think the city stood in the middle of a very difficult situation where never in the history of Hialeah has a city council member or mayor ever been charged for public record. It's never happened. And so we have a situation, you have very serious, very documented allegations about what's going on in 911. And I make a request for these documents and the mayor, and it's the mayor who creates this policy that no, you can't get them. And all of a sudden you have to pay these $7,000. And so when I sue the mayor to try to get the court to intervene, the mayor's defense, and I want to be very clear about this, the mayor's defense, and one of the reasons why the judge ultimately dismissed the suit, is he said, instead of suing the mayor, I should have sued the city of Hialeah. And we told the court, well, the reason we're not suing the city of Hialeah is because we don't want the taxpayers to have to carry this burden, because it's not the city's residents' faults. It's not the taxpayers' fault. The person at fault here is the mayor. The mayor is the one that should have to pay for what he did. And, aside from all the rhetoric and all the stuff, right, mayor's a big tough guy. 2 days ago, you had a resident come here, and I think some of the council members were copied on it. But he had a resident come 2 days ago and say, hey, look, I called 911 and nobody answered the phone. And we were over 20 minutes waiting for a response. There was vehicles on fire, 7 vehicles caught on fire. I just got an email, funny enough, before the meeting started. Here, afectado por el problema 911 en Hialeah. No sé cómo comunicarme, I don't know how to get in touch with you, but it is true. The 911, I've been up to 3 minutes waiting for an answer. They put me on hold because in the home, I'm translating here as we go. They put me on hold because my sister was in a medical emergency. And it took fire rescue over 30 minutes for them to arrive because of the delays in answering the call. She almost passed away. So constantly I'm getting residents complaining about this thing. And what I'm essentially asking for is these documents. We've been over it many, many times. I just want to make it clear that the crisis with 911 persists in our city. We still have the same staffing shortages. And although the mayor went out and hired and paid for, his fancy lawyers, which by the way, I couldn't hire, the burden on that fell on the taxpayer, and that money that could have gone to help 911, that money that could have gone to provide the documents for an investigation, those monies weren't used. So to sit here and say, hey, this is a victory, I think at the end of the day, the biggest loser today is the residents of the city of Hialeah. Number one, they're not getting the services that they should get. And number two, they're having to pay for the mayor's defense because the mayor, when convenient to him in his personal pocket, decides to use the city of Hialeah as a shield to protect him. And quite frankly, I think there should be more investigation on this issue. I think there needs to be more follow-up. And I think, as I've told members of the press, there needs to be considerations of some sort of appeal in this matter, because I think the law is very clear that this is something that's never happened and should not continue to happen in our city. And so I'm glad that we're on this topic, because I did want to propose something to the members of the city council today for your consideration. So my understanding of the charter, regardless of whether or not you believe me or you believe the mayor or whatever, or you're just kind of in between, my understanding of the charter is there's no explicit prohibition for the council to create some sort of resolution or maybe more appropriately an ordinance stating that if council members or the mayor ask for any documents, that those documents be provided to them without cost. Mr. City Attorney, is that accurate? Can we create an ordinance saying that, at least here, for purposes of the city of Hialeah, if a council member or if the mayor, or for that purpose, a department head asked for documents, that they wouldn't be charged under public records law or any other charge? Would we be able to create that?
If the council in its wisdom wanted to pass an ordinance like that, we would certainly review it and look at it. The issues are, there is a public records charge in general for everybody. We would want to review that. The council could create an exemption for itself or any of its members individually. I do not think so. The issue we would want to research is whether the charges that are prescribed by state law and are due, if the council could exempt its own members from that. I do not think that, for example, the one thing I want to add, though you didn't directly ask it, things that must be redacted by law, such as personal information, victim information, crime information, the council could not change that. That is state law. And there's a legion of cases that hold that it's very clear that only the legislature can change that.
But like, for example, when we get some of these backup items, I think it was a couple meetings ago, I remember, one of the items said, one of the backup items contained like social security numbers for a series of city employees.
They are exempt.
The employees or the social security?
Social security numbers are exempt.
So we don't have to redact those.
Redact those because they're exempt. They're exempt from disclosure to everyone, to you, to everybody else.
Right, but
You're no different.
But we got them, right? Like the backup had them.
They are exempt.
Okay. So how would, as a council member, how would we review redacted information? Would there be a mechanism to review the redacted information if it was useful for purposes of decision making? Or would we always have to have information redacted?
I believe that when information is exempt, clearly by law, it must be redacted. There is personal and organizational liability for the incorrect release of public records, confidential information, and the city should
Well, I
never
guess
run
the
that.
key word is release. Is it released when it's in our hands?
I mean, we can sit here and do theoretical things all night. We would want to have the questions posed to us so we could look into them,
Yeah.
respond to them in some quiet, deliberative manner, and not just, ad hoc, off the cuff. I think that personally, I think that release is a person viewing them. and having their eyes on them. Yes, I think that's a release, but we'd have to study it.
All right, so I think that's what we should do. I think we should have an ordinance drafted and created saying that elected officials, if they're acting in good faith, council members, mayor, you can throw in department heads if you want. If they request an internal Hialeah city record, that they shouldn't be charged a fee for that. I think that's a very fair, and actually the city of Doral, when you're doing your research, the city of Doral passed a very similar ordinance like that maybe 6 months ago. Because they had a similar situation. I think that one of the council members was asking for a document and the city was trying to charge them. And so they affirmatively passed an ordinance saying, hey, if it's a council member asking for an internal document, they shouldn't be charged. I mean, that is in line with what historically has been done in the city.
Right. I think the general practice has been, as I know it in local municipalities, is council persons and, local officials, could be a department head or something like that, can get records of a routine nature as a courtesy. But when the records become extensive, when it's thousands of pages or tens of thousands of pages, and we're talking about IT usage and usage of city resources, I don't think that practice has necessarily existed. But again, that would we would want to craft that in an LSR and review it as to the issues there. The ordinance is a legislative matter.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. I'd like to motion so we can work to craft on that ordinance. I can work with your office on the particulars. And then we can come back next meeting and see whether or not the council wants to continue exploring this ordinance. I think that would be appropriate. So I motion for that. Unless anybody has any other comments or questions.
If I may, through the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
It just leads us back to the original question. I think that derives from this. This investigation was a one-party investigation. The city couldn't comply with the allotted time. So we go back to the step, even if we do allow this, we would still need to hire someone to redact this information, to have it on time, because we don't have the staff. So if all of us start requesting public record requests that are thousands, in this case, 10,000 pages long, we're going to overburden this department. So how can we pass something without having some kind of limit? And then that puts us in a predicament, because then if we limit it to say 3,000 documents, and in the future, that's not enough. I don't know if this is the right route or the right remedy. I think we would have to chew it over and really come up with something that the city could comply by. Because if not, we're putting a burden on the city clerk. We're back to the original problem of this couldn't be fulfilled for the given reasons why this failed.
Yeah.
The basis
No,
of it.
I think that's a very insightful opinion. I agree with you. I think there should be some sort of limit, right? You don't want to overburden the city clerk. I think where I would want to move away from is the position that we're right now, where there doesn't seem to be a clear guideline, at least, whether the limit is 10 pages, right? I guess the point is there would be nothing to prevent, from my understanding of everything that's happened, if I ask for 1 page, that I not be charged for that document. It might be $1 that I might be charged, but I could still be charged unless the mayor approved or did not approve that. And so I think where we need to move towards is, like you're saying, the council decides, okay, whatever, that limit is 10 pages, it's 1,000, or whether it's a time thing or what have you. I think it's a very reasonable guideline to have, because I think we all request documents from time to time. And kudos to the city clerk's office. They try to fulfill all of our requests as quickly as possible. They have to deal with other requests from members of the community. But if everybody can know, hey, these are the rules that we're going to play by, then that's a very fair way of doing it, so that everybody gets the same treatment. That's my opinion. I think it's pretty reasonable.
Sir, if I may,
Yep.
I appreciate the comments, but I wanted to say that out of your request, there was only one item that we charged you for
Right.
because it was so voluminous. It was over 10,000 emails that we know for certain contained confidential and exempt information. So we gave you a cost estimate to go through it. It is true, to the best of my knowledge, that we've never charged a council member for records, but we've never received a request with that kind of volume.
Right.
And that was the reason that happened.
No.
That's, this is not an evidentiary hearing in the county, but as I understand the record, just so the record is clear, what you're saying is that for routine requests, council persons have not been charged in this.
That is correct, sir, because
Okay.
it's been records that are readily available and that
Okay.
we didn't have to go.
You're
through for
saying that in this
confidential.
particular request, because there's a vision under state law, the request was so extensive and so profound, and it required so many technological resources that it was only in that one instance that you asked to charge an administrative fee. I just want to understand.
That is correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, so Councilman Calvo, I don't think this is something that we should explore now. We're not gonna do it because we just came off of this issue, right? I don't think the council should be used for a tit for tat, right? So this is something that I don't agree we should do right now. But we could more than happy
mean,
take a vote. Let's take a vote if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a transparency thing, right? We're just saying, hey,
Yeah.
as public officials, we're entitled to have documents from the city that we represent and we have to make decisions on. And I think it seems like a very logical thing. And again, that limit could be whatever this council decides, whether it's 5 pages or 10.
Yeah.
But whether it's routine or not routine, what does that even mean, right? So I think those are things that we should define. Because look, the way all these laws come into play, like the laws today with RVs and all these things, there's a situation, that situation hadn't happened before, and therefore now we are pressed with the situation. Let's create some sort of policy that documents what we're going to do if this situation occurs again. That is the basic tenet of the legislative process. So we have the situation. It's never occurred before. We saw what happened here. Can we create some sort of ordinance moving forward? Is there a path here for at the end of the day, we're asking for internal documents. We're not asking for, launch codes for nuclear weapons or Area 51 aliens. I mean, we're talking about emails,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Just as a parliamentary point, I'm not the parliamentarian, but I just want to mention it. There has been a robust discussion, but you've asked for a vote. I suppose you could ask for a vote, but I did not hear a second. So there's not a second. I don't think there's an item to vote on.
Correct. All right, so no second, so the motion dies. Let's move on to zoning.
Sir, if I can just record the council members' vote while they were away. Councilmember Calvo, please, your vote on item 11G.
No.
Your vote on item 11H, please.
No.
Your vote on item 11I.
Yes.
And Councilmember Pacheco, your vote on item 11G, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Will all those persons who will be testifying on an item, please stand and raise your right hand.
Las personas que quisieran prestar sus opiniones delante de esta junta, por favor pónganse de pie y alcen la mano derecha.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? If so, say I do.
Usted jura o afirma que el testimonio que va a dar será la verdad, toda la verdad y únicamente la verdad, y que Dios sea su testigo. Por favor, diga que sí si la respuesta es afirmativa.
Let the record reflect that I have responded in the affirmative.
En el archivo público constará que todos han respondido afirmativamente.
All right. LU1.
First reading of proposed ordinance amending the future land use map from industrial to mixed use. Property located at northwest corner of West 36th Avenue and West 108th Street, 3605 West 108th Street, Hialeah, zoned BDH, Business Development District, legally described herein, folio number 042017001080 and 04201700108081, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, this item is in first reading. Name and address, sir, and if you want to say a few words.
Sorry about that. Manny Rose Architect with offices at 18501 Pines Boulevard, Suite 342, Pembroke Pines, Florida. Basically, we have here a unique project on the west side of I-75, which is a mixed use composed of a commercial on a ground floor with parking on the second floor and apartments right behind it. A number of 53 units. And we feel very strongly about this project. We're trying our best as architects and with the help of the planning department to use this project as a beginning of trying to bring the people out of their homes across the street, which is over 800, 900 units there. And we're trying to have them cross the street and start using the commercial property on the ground floor with the centered area, having courtyards for on each side, right side or left side, which will have restaurants and so forth, to bring an ambience that is lacking in that area. And basically parking on the second floor of the commercial area and parking underneath the multifamily in the back will be sufficient to accommodate the complex. And we're trying to break the ice in the area and bring something unique for the area, which is definitely needed and up to the great concern that we have in the area. We always, as architects, visit the site, walk the sites, talk to the people, etc. And I think this is something that will be elegant and unique for the area. So I'm requesting that you all interpret it the best you can and approve it for tonight, please.
Perfect. Thank you, Manny. Manny, any parking variances?
Yes.
Yeah, what is it to how much? Oh, not yet. I'm sorry.
No, we're in the land use. Yes.
Got it,
this will
got
be
it.
on the zoning.
Absolutely. All right. Sounds great. Looks great, Manny. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Any council discussion?
I say motion.
Motion by Councilman Zaghi,
Second.
with a second by the Vice President. Call the roll.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for February 13th, 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. Have a good night. Zoning, please. PZ1.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a conditional use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-181, to allow a K through second grade elementary school with a maximum capacity of 29 students in conjunction with an existing 62 children daycare, granting a variance permit to allow 8 parking spaces where 15 parking spaces are required, and allow all parking spaces to back out into the right of way where back out parking is only allowed in low density residential properties. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-2189, subsection 9, and section 9-3, subsection 3, titled Traffic Flow and Vehicle Parking of the Land Development Code. Property located at 484 through 490 East 32nd Street, Hialeah, zoned R3, multiple family district. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item is in second reading. Do we have any public comments online?
No,
or
sir.
In the chamber? No one wants to speak on this aside from Caesar? No? Caesar, any questions, any comments? Name and address if you'd like.
Caesar Mustard, offices at 8105 Northwest 155th Street, Miami Lakes, Florida. This is one of those that's been around since 2021. We had some issues at the beginning. We listened to Deborah. We implemented some of the traffic patterns that she suggested.
Yeah.
In the planning and zoning, it was interesting. The chairman, Diego Perez, said that he goes by the place all the time and saw that there was no problems with traffic, even though it's deficient in parking, that there was never any parking issues. I have some photographs that I took in the middle of the day that show that it has plenty of parking. There was parking available at that time.
Perfect.
Staff is working with the arrival and dismissals. We have no problems with any of the neighbors. Nobody's here complaining. That's what I would just ask you to approve it.
Are
the commissioner you spoke.
are the owners here today?
The owner, Alicia, is here. Yes.
Perfect, good, good. All right, sounds good. Any council discussions?
I say motion.
We have a motion by Councilman
Second.
Zagwi and we have a second by Monica Perez. Call the roll, please.
1 second, sir. We have a resident that wants us to hand some records out for the records on this item.
It's the next one.
Yeah, I think that's for the next one.
Well,
That's for PZ two.
I'm sorry, can you repeat who made the motion in the
It's a
second?
motion by Councilman Zagbi and a second by Councilwoman Perez.
Mr. Tonidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles,
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries, the item is approved.
All right, congratulations. All right, PZ two.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a special use permit to allow an elementary school to operate on properties owned R1, one family district, granting a conditional use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-181, to allow a K-5 grade elementary school on a freestanding campus setting property with a maximum capacity of 71 students, in conjunction with a daycare with a capacity of 169 children, and granting a variance permit to allow an 8-foot wall in height where 6 feet is the maximum allowed on residential zone properties. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-2121, subsection B23, property located at 21 East 59th Street, Hialeah, zoned R1, one family district, legally described herein, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
This item is in second reading. Any public comments online?
No, sir, but we do have someone in chambers.
Okay, we have someone in chambers that has some comments. There are 4 copies of
We
this.
do want for the record.
We can share this. I can share that one. Yeah.
Are they Mr. Ozzy's records? We need his name and address, please.
Caesar? Caesar, do you have this? What they're giving?
I'll refer to the due process of the applicant. So the applicant is entitled to a copy of anything that is handed out to the council. Okay, that's general rule.
Pepper, do you want to let them go first? Just to kind of, because they gave us these things just to keep it consistent, just to kind of, thank you, Pepper. Yeah, my bad. Name and address, please.
Good evening, councilmen, councilwomen. Efren Valdez, 36 East 59th Street, across the street from the prospective new school that's going to be humongous. I've lived there since
I'm sorry,
1975.
sir. I'm sorry. Can you repeat your name and address for
Yes.
the record?
Efren Valdez, 36 East 59th Street, across the street from the prospective new school.
Thank you.
Thank you. Listen, I'm all for people making money. I'm all for people opening a lot of schools, and we don't have any attorneys or architects or engineers. We're the people that live in the community. My concern is the following. I totally agree with Councilman Calvo on the issue with 9/11. We have issues in Hialeah, as we all know. Speaking from an ex-firefighter from Miami Beach, our response times were 4 minutes on scene. I had a lady that was staying in our house across the street right now before this new construction of the school. It took fire rescue 30 minutes to get there. She fell off a ladder. She fractured her hip, open fractures. Now she's crippled. So I do not believe that the traffic that's going to be caused by this new thing is going to help the citizens of that street. Even the children that are going to be there are going to be in jeopardy because of this. So I am totally against this. I'm going to keep it brief because I've heard this whole thing going on for 4 hours just to say a couple of words. But I do agree with Councilman Calvo. We have to think about the safety of the citizens first before we think about making money. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
My name is Zachary Palacios. I reside in 10 East 60th Street. Our neighborhood, it's the grand majority of the structures in our neighborhood are single-story traditional style structures. For those of you with this pamphlet, if you look at it, there is indeed a Baptist church school in the background. If you look at it, it still fits in within the community since it is traditionally styled. And on the second page, you look at it. The proposed structure, I made a quick render. I apologize with the colors. It was with the first rendition of the structure. And as mentioned in the previous slide, neighborhood is traditionally styled. There's traditionally styled structures, and the proposed monolithic structure is anything but traditional. Its design is more akin to a multi-use structure found in an industrial park surrounded by agua de parco than a suburban neighborhood. For those of you who don't know what that phrase means, it means mud water. I have a quick little audio clip here of the children. This was taken from within the home, which lies approximately 60 feet from the fence between that borders the property in question. And in this audio, it was an average of 63.4 decibels with a peak of 79.1 decibels. So this is taken within the home with the doors closed, windows closed, all closed. This was with the current school's population of 42 students. Now with 42 students, if I was able to hear it that well inside, imagine with 169. Traffic, I'm pretty sure, as you all know, on Palm Avenue, it's absolutely abysmal. During pickup and drop-off times, the residents of East 59th will not be able to exit their homes due to the exorbitant amount of cars waiting to enter the small parking lot that they have proposed. And during peak hours, the coming and going traffic created by the increased capacity of such can cause further traffic incidents, much like the ones seen before by the residents, ranging from a motorcyclist lying motionless on the hood of a car to a mother and daughter plowing into an exterior wall. I'm pretty sure this is a site that Carl Zogby has seen multiple times as a former officer. One statement I would like to state before I leave, the quoted excerpt stated by a council member from the council meeting on January 9th. People come to Hialeah to make money off of our city while having nothing else to do with Hialeah. I beg for you to not allow this North Miami Beach residents to further industrialize our great city. That'll be all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Do you have anyone else?
Good evening, Sandy Palacios, resident of 10 East 60th Street. I would also like to mention that we had more supporters, but they had to leave due to the time. I am here representing the strong opposition shared by the surrounding neighbors of the proposed ordinance granting a special use permit to allow an elementary school to operate on property zoned R1 and the conditional use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code Ordinance. This is a matter of great concern for the residents living within proximity to Children's Paradise Learning. At a previous planning and zoning meeting, we presented a petition bearing more than 60 signatures of actual residents within one block of the proposed school construction, along with those residing within the 500 feet radii, demonstrates a collective disapproval of this ordinance. The reasons for our opposition are numerous and speak to the potential impact on a residential family neighborhood. Allowing the construction of a two-story building will lead to the beginning of the commercialization of our neighborhood. As a lifelong resident of the city of Hialeah, I have witnessed both positive and negative progress within our city. Many beautiful neighborhoods of single-family homes have succumbed to commercial businesses for the sake of progress. Some of the many examples include the area surrounding City Hall, the City Hialeah Racetrack, a historical site that has been torn down for more apartment buildings and possibly a charter school, West 4th Avenue, north of 29th Street, all the way to 49th Street, and east of Palm Avenue along 49th Street, where homes have been turned into medical facilities and other offices. Having personally driven around the city, which I'm sure each of you do daily, you can see similar constructions as the one proposed. Although as modern as it may be, it will negatively alter the aesthetics of our single-family dwelling neighborhood. There are no commercial two-story buildings north of 55th Street and Palm Avenue. Our neighborhood is filled with family homes, many of which have been owned for more than 2 decades. My backyard is directly behind the current main building of the daycare. Therefore, I implore you to empathize with our situation. If your hard-earned homes were directly impacted as ours is, would you readily approve this ordinance? I believe none of you would appreciate such a threat to your own residential space. Furthermore, if this ordinance is approved, we seek assurances that the two-story building will not later be converted into an apartment building and that other single-family dwelling homes will not be allowed to transform into commercial businesses. We urge you to consider alternative solutions and compromises that will preserve the character of our neighborhood. In closing, I'm hoping that the earlier sentiment expressed by Councilman Tunidor about too much commercialization for progress is taken into account. We request that each member of this council listen to our plea and consider the concerns of the residents. We implore you not to allow the commercialization of our neighborhood and to preserve its residential character. Thank you for listening to our collective voice, and we trust that you will make decisions that prioritize the well-being and best interest of the long-lasting residents of our neighborhood, which are your constituents. Do not fail your residents.
Thank you, Sandy. Go ahead, Mr. Ozzie.
I wanted to show some pictures before I speak.
We have those pictures, right? So, and again, Mr. Ozzie, we're gonna go ahead and play that and show that. And again, part of the, just so it doesn't catch you by surprise, the new guidelines that we passed update that, that transaction, right, of visuals and showing that to the public. We're gonna need that with more time, but we can talk about that after, okay? But that's moving forward. I'll allow it today, but usually moving forward, we're not gonna allow that, okay?
Well, it hasn't been approved yet, and just before I get on, I turned it in before the 3 o'clock deadline. This is 100% legal. This is not, nobody's doing me a favor. I'm legit.
Right, but in order to show the photos, is the updates that we made onto
The updates, it's that it must be received a week prior and it will count as part of your comments, so you can speak.
But
of
that
the
hasn't been
pictures.
approved yet. It might be turned down because it's, I don't want to get into that. It's another topic.
Okay, I'm just giving you a heads
Right,
up,
right,
okay? So okay, show the pictures, Melissa.
Yeah, so that's the, after the fact, what happened to us in Three Friends Park in my neighborhood, I hope it doesn't get repeated again. I'm gonna be a big advocate of this overdevelopment. That picture was, the planning and zoning put that after the fact of what they're gonna do. And then can you show the other picture? So this is a green space right behind the Don Quixote. Can you show the other picture? So this is a green space we've had as public city property since 1925 for the last 100 years. And they want to make that into a dog park. What this caught my attention was you're gonna put a school in a single.
We're not seeing the pictures. We're not up.
Yeah, my time's running. Can you stop the clock?
Don't worry. I got it. Pause it. This is a picture of what?
This is a picture of planning and zoning. After the fact, they're telling the residents that our neighborhood, what they're gonna do, even though they're not including us yet. And what I want to get to is that this really caught my attention because it's a large school in a single property in a single family home. And the ethics department told Mrs. Storch and Alex, the attorney, to advertise in Spanish, use the language that we could, hold on, I'm talking, Deborah. Thank you. Use the language we could understand. And I think if you let the residents know, the prior ordinance, Cesar Messer said, nobody showed up, nobody's complaining. Because people really don't know what's going on when they're using this language. I'm gonna be here tomorrow in the planning and zoning meeting. There's a project coming up on West 25th Street. 333 parking spaces are allowed. They're asking for 177. So I hope to be an advocate where this overdevelopment of not letting parking, not letting the people know. I read it, it is in Spanish, so there's progress on the project coming up. It is in Spanish, but I couldn't understand it. So the language, what I'm proposing is that the recommendation is given the ethics department, inform the residents, inform them in Spanish, but use a language that they could understand. This language that the property is coming up, is understand. I'm so pleased that these residents are here. They're talking about putting a school. This really caught my attention. Putting a school in a single property home. That's like, you know, this overdevelopment, and the residents they're voting, they're mad. They get this thing popped up, these huge projects, and they find out later, like, you know, just what happened to us. We didn't even know they traded a house for a park. And we find out after the fact, and then they're putting these things after the fact. So if you inform the residents in a language they understand, Spanish, using words they understand and making it self-explanatory, that will give the residents, like they did, come an opportunity to defend themselves. I I'm pretty sure the reason more people don't come here in opposition because they don't know. And I think the planning and zoning could do more, use the language Spanish, use the language we understand, and be clear what's happening to projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ozzie. Okay, any other public comments? Okay, Mr. Messer.
Are you guys able to see the presentation? It's important to understand that what we're asking for, and I'll show you. Number one, it's not an increase of any type. It's actually, we believe, much better for the neighborhood than what has already been approved. This property is at 21 East 59th Street. It's the corner lot. It's a freestanding building. It has 36,590 square feet. Next slide.
Let me stop
This
right
is-
there for a second.
yeah.
So Caesar, go back to this line. Caesar, when did that land get replatted? Like when did it become major institution, land use, school?
In 1944, it was built.
Did it have all that
In
land?
it had all that land. In 1965, it became a daycare, which was something that was brought up at P and Z because the residents came out to complain. And one of the questions that one of the P and Z board members asked was, well, when you bought, there was already a daycare on the corner. And the answers were yes. It has major institutional land use, like you said. But now I'm showing you the next slide. Is 2008. In 2008, she had just purchased the property and came before P and Z, came before the council, and received a special use permit to allow a child daycare with up to 240 children in this property zoned R1. So 2008, she increases the daycare capacity to 240 children. There was going to be, and it was approved, a total redevelopment of that corner back in 2008. Unfortunately, we all know what happened to the economy in 2008. Her financing that she had in place fell through and she was unable to do it. So we are not increasing anything from what she already has. The only difference now is that we're going to be officially incorporating the educational component. This school, like every other school that I brought before you, and all the ones that you're going to see coming up very shortly, have added educational grades from kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, as time went on. And they did not know that they needed to come before you to get the special use permit. So that's why she's here. There's going to, when you have a daycare, children in daycare, and you have children in educational, the staff for the school is less for the educational. You have one teacher per 20 children, one teacher per classroom. When you have a daycare, depending on the age, you have 1 per 4, 1 per 6, 1 per 8. So you have more staff. Next slide. Next slide. This is what it's going to look like. This is the proposal. It is a 2-story structure. And this issue also came up before the planning and zoning. And I believe it was your zoning director that told everyone the 1 or 2 stories is not really something we can do anything about because everybody has the right to build 2 stories. You have a single family home, you can put a 2nd story. The city can't tell you you can't build 2 stories. With me today is the owner of the property, Jonaiki Miranda, and also the architect, Carlo Cardoso, who will talk to you about how the design has been placed in a way to keep it away from the residences to the north and away from the residences to the east. We put it up in the corner as far as possible. The issue of the noise came up. And we actually tabled it for a while to go back and regroup and see what we could do, because I understand that. And what you heard, whether that's recorded the way they said, I don't know, was through a chain link fence, which is there now. Chain link fences do not stop noise, and we became aware of that. So you're going to hear how in our declaration, we have put that we're going to build, if I remember correctly, a wood wall, a block wall, and special noise reduction material to keep the noise from bothering the neighbors. We're trying to be a good neighbor. You're also going to see that right now, there is no parking lot because there was no redevelopment. So what has been happening, and you see it in Deborah's report, is some folks have been parking inside the swale area, and some have been parking on the corner where there's only a fence and green area. That grass has died. It doesn't look good. But we are proposing to build a full parking lot, which has enough parking, no variances. So now everything will be contained within their property. Same amount of children, less staff because now it's educational. There's a playground that's away from them, and there's just a small playground located next to these folks' home, which we've taken all the precautions to reduce the noise. And he's going to get into it a little more scientifically, telling you about the decibels and the distance, et cetera. But we believe that that should alleviate the problem totally. Next slide. Next one. This is what the property looks like now. As you can see, cars parked in swale. It's a large lot. The parking lot is going to be located mostly towards the east and north of the property. We're proposing, and we have proffered a declaration of restrictions with a landscape buffer to keep the school away from the vision of the neighbors. The next slide. This is an overhead. This kind of shows you on the left side where the trees are. That was a big circular driveway that this small house built in 1944 had. That's where people have been parking now. But you see the big space to the right. That's where the parking lot is going to be now. We will have staff helping out with dismissal and arrival. Next slide. This is a better picture of the actual corner where our staff is parking now. That will no longer be used for that. Next slide shows you the property located to the east and how there's only a chain link fence there now. There will be a CBS wall separating it with lush landscaping. And the next slide shows you the diagram from overhead. You see the parking spaces. You see the circulation is going to be much more organized than anything that's there now. And then we have some elevations of the school. I want you to go to page 15, slide 15, please. And this is a little chart that I made. It was a single family house from 1944 to 1965. Single family house is not an option anymore. That ship has sailed a long time ago. Then it's a daycare from 1965 to 2008. The Hialeah Council approved it with 240 children and major institution land use. Really now has no on-site parking because the redevelopment wasn't able to be done. The swale area has been destroyed. Children play next to the homes, and there's only a chain link fence dividing them. There's more cars because there's more employees. What we're asking you is to the same amount of children, 240, upgrading the parking and the car stacking. The children will benefit. There's a 6,900 square foot playground We will regrass the soil area. We'll create parallel parking spaces. Then we'll put an 8-foot fence. One of the things we're asking you for is for a variance to allow us to go higher with the fence. You guys can approve a 6-foot fence. We're asking for an 8-foot fence to help with the noise reduction. And the new building will be located as far away as we could from the homes, from the north and the east. So I'd like to have Carlos Cardoso, the architect, come and explain to you the noise portion of it.
How you doing? Carlos Cardoso, representing Design Tech International at 14125 Northwest 80th Avenue. Going over what Caesar was commenting on. We've done everything we can to house all the parking, 100% of the required parking on site with the drop off and all the stacking on site, not beyond the property line. So we've done whatever we can to maintain all the parking within. And then we're also providing 3 additional street level parking for the community to use. Like Caesar mentioned, we're requesting a 8-foot fence as opposed to the mandatory 6-foot fence. The reason why we're doing that, the kids that are going to be using the playground in that area are daycare kids. By our estimation, the maximum height for the daycare children are about 36 inches. We're asking for an 8-foot high fence to help with any sound to be blocked, not only through the wall itself, but also through the height. We're requesting not only an 8-foot high fence, we're asking for all the cells to be filled, providing us with a decibel reduction on the sound that's coming through the wall of 55 decibels. What a playground basically generates is 115 decibels. So just the fence alone is going to be reducing almost half the sound that's coming from the playground. We're also requiring for us to provide a filtering system, a fabric that also helps deaden the sound by about 28 decibels. And we're also asking to put a wood fence with a specific design, which will also deaden the sound another 38 decibels. All in all, that's giving us 115 decibels of reduction to the 115 that we are providing. You add to that as we move away from the wall, the sound level drops. In other words, we're assuming that 115 decibels are at the wall. As we start moving away, let's say for every 3 feet that we move back, and that number starts doubling, so from 3 feet to 6 feet, we lose another 6 decibels. As we double that to 12 feet, we lose another 6 decibels. As we double that, we're at total dropping just on distance alone, another 28 decibels. I've already said that we already deadened 115 decibels, but distance as well is reducing that. On top of that, we're providing landscaping in this area that will not deaden the sound, but it'll deflect the sound. So we're doing everything that we can within our power to help reduce the sound, which was one of the main items that were discussed. Along with that, as Caesar mentioned, the positioning of the facility is as far away from the building as from the neighboring areas as we can. So, I mean, with everything considered, we've tried to keep as many of the items that have been brought up, and we've tried to address it as best we can to meet, whatever requirements we can to be able to help, and be a good neighbor in this area.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I have a couple questions.
I have a couple of more.
The what?
I have some people that want to talk. Should be quick.
And policía.
Rainier? Dayron Fonseca.
Hello, good evening. I'm Dairon Fonseca, 805 West 74th Street, Hialeah, Florida 33014. And today I'm in here in favor of Yonaiki Miranda and the school. I am a previous student of hers. I've been a student ever since the 3rd grade. And I want to talk about the importance of the school, the importance of getting the attention that this kids need. I would have loved to have this school, to have these newer things and this upgrade, because for me, academics is super important, right? And as you can see, they're trying their very hardest to try and fix each and every concern that they have, which is something that I feel is very special, because at the end of the day, we want what's best for the kids, right? We want the learning as they're incorporating it. We want everything, the best that they have. Now, for me, this school has prepared me and helped me in so many ways. And I feel like it is an immense opportunity that I want other kids to have. For example, when I graduated, right? I graduated 8th grade, and now when I started 9th grade, I was a little scared. It was my first time in like a high school, like, oh, wow. I graduated that 9th grade, top of my class, straight A's. Now I'm an AP. And it was because of all the teachings that they gave me, right? It was because of all the opportunities that they had, right? It was like they helped me through so many things in my life, things like connections, the one-on-ones that you just don't have in other schools, were things that they were able to offer me. When I was 7, my parents divorced, and they noticed it. They noticed that this once happy kid wasn't being his usual self. Now, thanks to the school, they helped me so much going through that. They helped my parents, they helped everyone get through everything, me and my younger sister. And just their work with kids in general is just amazing. And I feel like kids need that, especially since we're talking about young kids, the foundations that they need to develop, the social skills. She helps a lot of kids with disabilities and stuff like that. And it's just amazing to see all of the things that she puts forward to try and get to them, right? And for me, like I said, academic is the #1 thing, just building these foundations, these things, the opportunity that this building will give to the children is what I feel is the most important part, right? And yeah, that's just why I came to say that I hope to God, please, to let them do this, just because we want to see her hands, like the future of Hialeah is in her hands, because she is raising our next generation. These are kids that are spending more time in school, right? More time with her and her staff than with their parents. Their day-to-day is being taught by them. And I feel like this is something that's very important, especially at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I just have one more person, Jennifer Martin is the neighbor, right? The neighbor, yeah.
Name and address, ma'am, please.
My name is Michelle Bacali, 7155 Northwest 179th Street, apartment 107 in Hialeah, Florida 33015. I met Yonaiki 10 years ago. And when I met her, my mom passed. My son was 5 years old. And when that happened, my son was in John G. Dupuis. He was expelled from John G. Dupuis. I was crying when I met her. Like, I got divorced, my mom passed, my son have ADHD, and he was having his, the worst time of my life.
That's your son right there?
No, my big one. He's my son, but I'm talking about my big one.
Got it.
I've been a client of Children's Paradise for 10 years. All of my kids have been there. And I want to talk about Yonaiki as a person, she has been helping me as a single mom I have 4 children. She's been helping me, other parents in the school that they can come and talk to. She find a mother crying too with triple. They are in the school. She had those kids. no paying tuition for like 6 months. That mom was like, I don't know what to do. I can't work. The daycare is too much. She does the same thing with me. She helped me. She don't do this for the money. She's been helping a lot of parents that I know. She's been helping single moms, kids with special needs. And I'm not talking about Yonaiki as a boss. I'm talking about Yonaiki as a human. Please, the things that she does for the school is amazing. You should go and see it yourself, but you don't have idea how much she helped everyone in Hialeah. So please help Yonaiki to build this school. She's an amazing human being. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just want you to remember last time when it was for first reading, we asked the folks to stand up that were here in support of the school. And then there was quite a big number of folks. They didn't come out today because school night, et cetera. And also, I believe part of the record, this was submitted to, it's 270 letters in favor of approving this, the redevelopment of that property according to numbers that coincide with what was approved in 2008. So we would ask you respectfully to approve this on second reading. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Caesar. And thank you to everyone that came out to speak on this item. So just a couple points for my clarification. So I know you mentioned that in 2008, the council at that time had approved an increase to 240 kids.
A daycare to 240 kids, correct?
Okay, so at this moment, right, her building, whatever it is, a single family, whatever the structure is, how many kids does it have at this moment?
81.
Okay, so 81, and I would venture to believe that it's because of the infrastructure limitations, right?
Correct.
So, okay. So today, as of right, though, I mean, can she, if she had the space, can she technically go up to 240? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay, so whatever was granted back in 2008, is that still effective today? Is
Yes.
that, or, okay, so
That ordinance has not been rescinded or taken, nothing. That is in effect.
Okay, so yeah, so as of right, she could technically have 240 kids if she had the seats.
Which is the same number that we're asking for now.
Yeah, okay, and
we had asked for a little more, but we brought it back down to the number that was approved in 2009.
right, and so and just to be very clear, right, with everyone that's here today, so you're here today, not requesting an increase, not requesting a change in zone, whatever the case, you're here today asking for a special use permit.
The special use permit for the educational component.
And the what, Deborah said?
He originally applied for a rezoning and for a conditional use permit to have the school. He has the major institutions land use. So my idea was, instead of rezoning, that the zoning that is required for a daycare is R3, that in the future could permit an apartment building. I said, let's do something different. Let's do a special use permit to allow school in an R1 zone property. So the property remains R1 with an SUP. So in the future, the school goes out of business. No one can come and build an apartment building there. That's number one. And number two, he's asking for the conditional use permit for the school, because this wasn't a school. This was only a daycare. And there's no parking variance. They are building this school, its own campus from scratch.
So the 240 kids, what would be the breakdown on daycare versus school?
71 elementary and 169
daycare. Okay, does the council have any comments?
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I understand that right now as of right, there's the 240. However, I'd like to get Deborah's take on this if possible. The property is zoned currently R1, so the only way that they would be able to actually meet the 240 students would be to build a very big house.
Well, when they came in 2008, that special use permit was approved contingent to a plan that they brought at the time that was also two-story building. It
So
was
two-
also a
okay.
proposed redevelopment, and then they asked for a special permission to have like a trailer for a year. The trailer remains there, so that is not good. Well, they never built, so now that they are rebuilding, they want also to incorporate the school.
Okay, so, but just to clarify, to be able to hit the 240 students, they would have to build currently, without anything today, they would have to build single family looking home, 2 stories,
Well, and the parking,
and have the parking.
yes.
So it's almost like impossible to do that, is it?
No, it's possible.
Okay.
It's possible. They can do the same thing and say, we're not having the elementary school students, we're just having the daycare, but will imply a redevelopment. In the current conditions, like it is now, they cannot house their 240 students.
Right, but if they tore the building down, they build a new building, they could build it without coming forward and getting any rezoning, any variance, any special use permit.
Exactly, for the daycare.
I think we could build exactly the same building without coming before you
Yes,
and put the 240.
Daycare.
They would have to
in
be
there.
daycare,
Correct.
right?
That would be the only difference.
Right.
Because we're not asking for parking variances, we're not asking for.
And it's important, and it's important what the councilman is making reference to, right? I mean, because it's not that this is going to prevent, and I'm sorry, Councilman, but just that was a good point. It's not that this would prevent any type of development from happening there, right? Just because how you both just mentioned now, if this route doesn't go through for you, then tomorrow she can decide to build the same exact thing, just don't have the educational component.
Correct.
The reason why you're coming before us is for the SUP because of the educational component.
Correct.
Councilman.
Okay, and then so that rendering there that I'm looking at, and this is for my background, that would qualify as an R1 without getting any
that,
special use. permit?
that will qualify as a school. They are asking for a special use permit
No, I
to be,
understand what
to
they're,
be able to have the building.
That's 2 stories.
without
Yeah,
a special use permit.
Yes, a 2-story building and
That
with
could be a house.
30% of, well, there are houses like that. There is a house across the street from Molinas that when I first
Yeah.
saw it,
On East
I
41st
said, well,
Street.
I never saw this in a variance.
Yeah,
And
that
that
gets
house,
crazy.
but that house was built by right. They didn't come for any variance because they can build 2 stories and a half.
Okay,
But if I may though, through the chair,
Yes.
just to make a point,
yep,
the 71 children, if she would come back and try to do that, but up to 240, it would actually be worse. Because remember, she would need more adults,
More staff.
more parking,
Yes,
because
exactly.
of the fact that, by law, you have to have like a 5-to-1 ratio for certain ages or what have you. So
More parking.
it would be more cars, more congestion in that sense, because there's more adults. In this scenario, there's less cars because there's more children
Exactly.
that are gonna be there stationed.
Yes, and it's on, and the parking, they don't need that, they need a lot of parking, but not that much because the daycare requires less parking than the school, and the school is only limited to 71 children.
The only thing, if I may through the chair, the only thing that scares me about having this building so close to Palm Avenue is the way that people drive on Palm. That's the only thing that really terrifies me, but I'm not an architect, so I don't know what's been implemented to keep the walls safe, for impact. I don't know,
And when we asked for the tabling of the item for a while, we were looking at different possibilities of moving the playground away from being next to the neighbors. There was even an idea floated to put it on the corner and be safety wise, it didn't seem right.
Right.
So this was the best that we could do,
Caesar,
trying to be a good neighbor.
do we have also like school crossing, because I mean, this is, it's good, you know, it would be a pretty big school on a busy street. Would there be any traffic controls that the school board or the county mandate, or, I mean,
No. they don't.
At when they came before planning and zoning, they asked them to provide like a study, a traffic study.
But not a crosswalk. No.
They don't do it, they don't do a traffic study. They can always.
no,
ask
I'm not
for
asking for a traffic study.
You're asking for like a crosswalk,
I'm
like someone on the
asking
street.
for,
Yeah.
for traffic controls that will tell the normal driver going up and down
Slow
Palm
down.
Ave, hey, watch out, I mean, the school zone. I
Well,
mean,
Palm
right, like-
Avenue and 59th Street are both local streets, so they can go to the streets department and work out something with them. And regarding the proximity of the building to the property lines, there's a separation, so they can build bollards. And along the area where they have the playground, they will have to build the bollards because it's mandatory. But in front of the building is not mandatory, but you can request that if you have that
I
concern.
think one of the good aspects is that East 59th Street is not a straight. It cuts in order to pass through that street, through Palm Avenue. So I think that slows down a lot of that impact and for cars to turn onto that property. So that's one of the, at least that's a better point they're looking at.
Caesar, can you put back up, or somebody can put up the presentation? I want to see like some of the top-down renderings again.
And real quick, before we get to that, I see we have Yoni Gonzalez online, raising their hand. Yoni, you want to say a few words? Name and address, please, and I think you're on mute.
Yes, hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, name and address, please.
Yoni Gonzalez, 11 East 60th Street, which is one block right across the school. So we're not discussing, I think a lot of the, hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of the people that stood up, they're obviously discussing about the school and the great impact that it has. I did send the councilman and the councilwoman an email. And what it talked about is basically, you know, the land. It's 0.84 acres, if I'm not mistaken. The capacity they're asking for is 240 children. There is 6 schools within a 1 mile radius. We have Palm Springs Elementary, which is 0.4 miles away, with 465 children. That school is 9 acres. 9 acres. We also have Amelia Earhart Elementary, which is 0.9 miles away. That's a 15-acre lot with the capacity of 376 children. We also have Twin Lakes Elementary, 1.2 miles away. That's 280 students on 5 acres. So I don't know how you're gonna fit in 0.84 acres, 240 students. And I'm not gonna go through my whole email because I know it's late, but a lot of you guys are familiar with the area. And if you're not, then you should be. We are the residents of the area. A lot of the people that are there are not residents of the area. Palm Avenue and 60 and 59th are both very dangerous streets, extremely dangerous. There's a lot of accidents. You can look up this data. I think it's one of the most dangerous corners there is. So having that school right there is not only going to impact the residents, it's actually very dangerous for the kids. And if you don't have street signs that say, you know, you need to slow down or have those lights, the yellow lights that the schools has, that's going to be a mission to get those kids safely across the street and vice versa. Also, those 6 schools that I mentioned, you could go anytime at 9 a.m., 8:30 a.m., which is pickup times and drop-off times, 2:30, 3. The whole area, there's traffic everywhere. So imagine bringing another 240 kids, another 240 cars to the same area where you already have 6 schools. So I did send an email to you guys requesting a meeting regarding to this. I never got an answer back. I hope you guys do answer this email so we can have a meeting. I did send also a picture in that email that has the traffic in that area. It's just gonna be a mess. We're talking about 6 schools. If you add up all the kids, almost 1,000 kids within a mile. That is just unheard of. So thank you for your time. I don't oppose new business. I'm a business owner myself, but just in the right space and in the right time.
Thank you, Yoni, appreciate you. All right, Councilman Cabo.
Do you have those renderings? Sorry. Yeah, the ones that were top down, like an aerial view. Yeah, well, of the new project.
The new one. And number 6.
Okay. So that area there, just north of the building location, that's the playground space.
That-
Like
Or the daycare.
Circle, some, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it, okay.
That's the daycare.
That's the daycare playground. Right.
Yes.
That's what I was actually up here to remind you.
Stop and second floor, playground noise control.
If you look at one of the renderings, we're actually providing some kind of on the second floor. No, ma'am.
Okay,
If-
ma'am,
but
ma'am,
if-
please. Señora, ma'am,
Yes.
please, no shouting from the audience, please.
Okay, what we didn't mention is we've separated the playground areas that are required by the state. The daycare is a 3,000 square foot space that we have where we've been discussing, because that was the area of high impact of noise, to the resident. We separated the elementary school, which is about a 6,000 square foot playground area that we've placed over the parking. So it'll be elevated, and the area, obviously, to maintain safety, we've got some kind of a louvered system where we're providing some kind of wind to get through, but shielding the kids, making sure that it's safe for them so that there's no accidents since they're on the second floor. At the same time, that's providing covered parking for people that are using the parking lot. So, and the distance of where that playground starts is 45 feet away from where that property line is. So it's actually about, if you go to the beginning of it, it's about 80 feet away from the property. As I discussed, the further we go away, the more sound starts diminishing. So, we're assuming that is helping the situation with the positioning where we're putting it, along with the louvering system that we have there. We think that will help with the sound that would be generated from the second floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a comment on that. So I've had a bad experience with noise. I live, I don't know, let's call it 300-400 feet away from Southern Winds and Hospital. And we have about an 8-foot concrete wall dividing the residential properties from that. You can, obviously they're not school-age children, they're adults, but the noise travels very, very much so. And that's at a considerable distance. I'm not necessarily adjacent.
That's why we're doing the wooden fence.
Okay.
The CBS block fence.
Right.
With the cells filled in, plus the noise deadening material.
Right.
So doing multi-layers to try to prevent that.
Right.
And that'll be for the short time that the kids are out there playing.
Right. But because I hadn't noticed the thing about the second floor playground. That'll be obviously above the fence. It'll have its own wall.
Correct. Yeah, that's if you look at slide number 14. Kind of gives you a better view of that's what it looks like.
Right.
It's on top of the parking
Are
lot.
those slats or like ventilation?
Yeah, that's what he talked about, the louvers, the louvered to allow a little bit of wind to go through, but will help with the noise, but it's high up anyway, so,
Okay, but it's open, right?
yeah, it's open.
All right.
So, you know, these things, in my opinion, I mean, are always very tough, right? You know, this type of planning, this type of development, you know, the folks today we have to learn how to navigate and deal with maybe even mistakes of the past, right? And that's, I think that's always a struggle, and that's why, you know, since I've been up here, I've always put a lot of emphasis on and concern about setting precedents, right? Putting a business, you know, where in the middle of a residential area, right, so to speak, or I mean, I know you have Palm Ave, but it also, you know, or putting a residential property in the middle of an industrial zone, right? So these are the types of issues that you start to see as time goes on, as you know, the community grows and new developments happen, and we're left to deal with these situations. You know, and again, if the council has more comments about this, my biggest thing, well, council,
when you're ready.
yeah, just my biggest thing is, you know, if this is prevented today, right? Well, what do they do tomorrow, right? And I think they have multiple options, and it seems to me, after hearing the zoning director and these folks here, is that they can almost technically still do the same thing, right? Just they're not a school, but they're a daycare, and that to me is still the big concern, right? By prohibiting this, is it the outcome that you're favorable to? I don't think so. I don't, judging off of what we just heard today, I don't see that. But Councilman, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what I was going to piggyback on. We're harping on the noise. We're harping on the traffic incidents. But if I understood correctly, like you're explaining and like you've explained, they're just going to pull the trigger now. They can have 240 kids there, whether you want to call it a daycare or an educational component with grades K through 5. But the kids can come. The traffic, whatever that'll be, will come. I don't see, whereas I understand the pushback from the neighbors. I do, but it's not something brand new we're doing to the neighborhood. They just asked for an educational component. It's a technicality, a CUP, it's an SUP, but they can still bring the daycare, right? Like you said, they can still bring the 240 kids, and there's nothing we can do about it. So if it's a matter of adding an educational component, I don't see the harm in it. I don't see the difference, when either way it's going to come. Because if I was sitting on that property, you have to build something, and you have to, you know, exploit it to its maximum capacity, and she can legally do that. It's my understanding she can legally do that. It's been approved. So 240 kids, whatever they're going to be doing, whether they're going to be learning or just being taken care of during the day, in this case both, it doesn't make a difference. They have a right to do it. So if we deny them, we're only going to be denying an educational component, and that isn't going to impact the neighborhood in a negative way or in any way, then it would just be a daycare. So that's exactly what I was going to say. It's gonna come one way or another, is what I believe.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
They prefer the declaration of restrictions. There are many restrictions there, the total capacity, the colors of the building, that the trailer will be removed. But maybe to help the neighbors, what you can add also is the limitation on hours of operation, because you don't want them to hold special activities on the weekend and have all that noise over the weekend. So maybe you can ask for that and clarify that the school hours are from, I don't know, 7 to 6 p.m. and that no activities will be held on weekend except special events, I don't know, twice a year or something like that.
How does, and again, I'm going off of the.
Well, I live across the street from the school and they
Yeah.
have soccer games on Saturdays at 8 a.m. or Sundays, they have a special event. You don't want that. The neighbors won't want to have that every weekend. So they can include that in the creation of restrictions and give some kind of comfort to the neighbors that at least over the weekend, they will have a silence.
How do we, and again, at face value, and it's getting late, I mean, is that something that you guys are in favor of? I mean, you want to come up here and speak? Thank you. Yeah, name and address, please.
My name is Anae Monteagudo, and I'm at 41 East 59th Street. I'm the house directly adjacent to the proposed daycare to the east side. By the way, I want to disclose that RV that's there was sold over 2 years ago. It was my son's. There is no RV on our property. That's a very old picture, by the way. So I just want to disclose that.
No, that could concern me.
No. That's why I wanted to make it clear.
Thank you.
One of the reasons, and me as living there. So I am on 59th Street. I have, if you look at it, we have a circular driveway.
Yeah.
And I know you guys know all of these schools. People start parking to drop off their kids. There is no way I'm not going to get blocked in the morning, or that property is not going to get blocked all the way to First
Fair.
Avenue
That's a fair statement.
to drop off these kids. Now, you're really good at, at warping things. There's 140 additional kids that are coming in that are daycare kids. That means you are going to need additional staff. There's only 50 something school grade kids. So the staffing is going to come anyways. Think about it. I mean, you did a good job. I got to admit it. Nobody caught it. So as far as staffing is concerned, you saying that it's reduced, that is not true. You are increasing staffing, you're increasing students, and you're increasing staff. I know all of you would not like to have, and I'm not even going to talk about the noise because, we've beat that to a pulp. The traffic, the rudeness, the fact that, we don't even have a light on 59th Street to turn on Palm Avenue. I know you guys have all navigated Palm Avenue. That is a speedway. 59th Street is a speedway. People drive there like maniacs. So, again, I'm not opposed, to progress and everything, but if you want to grow your business, then you should go to a commercial area and grow your business, not in a residential area. We don't have a problem with a daycare. She wants to build a daycare and make it nicer. She can develop the parking. It's a mess on the side. It's disgusting. It's not maintained. So as far as, yes, it's a very nice rendering. It would be very beautiful, but aesthetically, it doesn't go with our neighborhood. So I am asking the council to please put a halt to this, table it, and revisit, 240. She's obviously not interested in doing a 240 daycare because maybe financially it's not, as profitable as the other. Because if not, it would have already happened. Okay. So there's got to be something behind this that is not being said. Okay. And I am asking you to please table this. As a resident, as the neighbor, we don't bother anybody. We keep our house nice and we want to keep it that way. So, I'm asking each and every one to please think about it. Okay.
All right.
There you go.
Through the chair,
Yes, ma'am.
are they gonna have, how is the pickup and drop off gonna be? It's just like she said, people are just gonna park anywhere or?
No. If you look at the parking lot rendering, it's actually one of the better ones I've seen. And I'll tell you. Go to number 6. See on number 6, the rotation is actually coming in on the east entrance.
Okay.
And you see those cars, those are to scale. So those are cars that are going to be able to be in the parking lot and then exit on the one that's the western side. So that's the loop. That's the loop that's gonna be organized to do.
That's the loop that's gonna be organized that people should take, but is there gonna be anything organized or enforced for people to actually have to do that and not be scattered like in the block?
Entrance only, exit only, and staff is going to be monitoring to make sure that that's the way they do it. We don't want people parking everywhere and walking across the parking lot. That would be a safety hazard for everybody.
Okay, the school where my kids used to go, they actually put 2 police officers outside, and they would actually ticket people if they would get into people's houses and if they wouldn't do what they were saying, which was, drive by, drop off your kids, keep going.
I asked my client before if she was willing to hire security or off-duty police officers. She said she doesn't have a problem to monitor the dismissal, to make sure that that doesn't happen. We can put that in our declaration of restrictions.
Because that would probably help with the issues of, because I know that could be.
Yeah, we can do that. That'll be put in there. No problem. Right.
Any other council, anybody else have a question?
Just for the record, I live in front of a large public high school that's here in Hialeah. So I wake up in the morning at 7 a.m. with the bands playing, and it's something that I just know. I bought my house in front of this high school, so I know what it is. And I think that it may seem, that this is a large building, but I believe that with everything that's being implemented, that they're being a considerate neighbor. They're considering the noise. They're putting the building off to the corner of the lot, and they're within their rights. And that's what ties our hands, like the other 2 councilmen said. I believe that, as a council, this is what, this property owner has the right to build. And I think that they're doing the best effort that they can to be a good neighbor. And I don't think it's gonna be as horrible as we think, Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
One second.
No problem.
1 second. So, Cesar, have you all met with the neighbors?
No, we have not.
Okay. Cesar, how would you feel? Okay, and you can speak to your client. How would you guys feel on having a discussion with the neighbors? Okay, because I think it's a lot better and more clear if we know exactly what the concerns are, right? To enhance a more detailed declaration of restrictions, right? Because look, at the end of the day, we have all these agreements, right? And how it's been said in the past, we have ordinances that we that we pass, and sometimes they're not enforced, right? And I really do believe that the source of true enforcement for us in our community is all of you, right? When you see something, right, you call, whether it's 911, whether it's the city, whatever the case is. I don't know how the council would feel about this, right? But I would suggest having a meeting between all of your neighbors, right? And this organization. You can tell this organization, from what I've seen, is acting in good faith and making an effort to capture all the concerns and the issues. So I can't take that away from them, right? But we hear you loud and clear, right? We understand also it's late. You had folks that were supposed to be here that didn't make it. I get all that, right? But I would find it more productive and more beneficial if that's possible. Look, I think the council is pretty much leaning towards one direction because of what it is, right? But if you guys can get additional things out of it, where, hey, I have this issue, I have this and this, and we could incorporate that into the declaration of restrictions, and then el día mañana they go and they mess up. Now you guys are calling us, and if they're in violation of their agreement, now we got some teeth to it, right? So I would ask to see how the council feels about that approach. Cesar, perhaps tabling this item for the next meeting, giving you enough time to meet with them, and then having the discussion. Just talk to me. What?
Right.
She wants to speak.
I think that's a fair compromise.
to actually have a meeting, a civilized meeting, and come to that conclusion, because we are.
Guys.
And that right there and that, those are the parents.
Okay.
All right, I would motion to table.
And it has
If you want a second.
Okay. All right, so that's what we're gonna do.
I second the motion.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilman Calvo. And we have, hold on one second. We have a motion by Councilman Calvo to table the item for 2 weeks. Okay, and we have a second by Councilwoman Perez for that motion. Okay, so before we take it, Caesar, I mean, if we can make this happen within the next 2 weeks, look, I think we've seen the direction of the council, right? Hold on a second. But we want to try as much as we can to hear, right, each and every one of the residents. Same way, if one of those parents were in their shoes, we want to make sure that everyone's being heard.
Understand.
Ahora, el día mañana, you guys come back and say, "Hey, nothing worked out," whatever the case is, right? Then we have that conversation, right? And we know that you guys tried, right? And led with good faith. So, I mean, we're good?
We're okay, tabling it till the next meeting, which I believe is the February 13th.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I've already got the information to reach out to one of the contacts and I'll set something up for next week.
Okay.
Just for the record,
Thank
if
you,
the clerk
Caesar.
could read out the date and time that the
Yeah,
matter
we
will
still
be.
haven't taken a vote yet.
Okay, so you'll include the date and the time in the vote.
Yes,
You'll announce it.
Yes,
Okay.
Can we call the roll?
yes, call the roll, please.
So we have a motion by Council Member Calvo to table the item until February 13, 2024, and a second by Perez. Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is tabled until February 13, 2024.
Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And Caesar, please, let's make this happen and get together with the
I got it.
residents and we'll go from there, okay? All right, thank you all. Have a good night. PZ3.
First reading of proposed ordinance rezoning property from R3 multiple family district to R34 multiple family district. Granting a variance permit to allow a front setback of 4.33 feet where 25 feet are required. 0.33 foot south side setback where 10 feet are required. Rear setback of 9 feet where 20 feet are required. 22% pervious area where 30% is the minimum required. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-589, section 98-590, section 98-591, section 98-2056, 1050 Southeast 9th Court and 1070 Southeast 9th Court, Hialeah zoned R3 multiple family district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, this item's in first reading. No public comments. Do we have any council discussion?
Motion.
We have a motion by Councilmember Zogby. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by the Vice President. Please call the roll.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for February 13th, 2024.
All right, PZ4.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a conditional use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-181, to allow a multifamily development including 239 units on property located within a quarter-mile radius of the Hialeah Heights Commercial Development District, and rezoning property from industrial district to mixed-use multiple family district. Property located at 8875 West 40th Avenue, Hialeah, zoned MH Industrial District, legally described herein, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item's in first reading. Do we have any council discussion?
Motion approved.
We have a motion by
and a
Calvo
second.
and a second by Zogby. Call the roll.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for February 13th, 2024.
Okay, PZ5.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a conditional use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-181, to allow a K through first grade elementary school with a maximum capacity of 24 students occupying a single bay, Bay 356 Palm Avenue, in conjunction with a 62 children daycare, Bays 362, 368, 374, 380, and 386 Palm Avenue, granting a variance permit to allow 26 parking spaces, 23 on-site and 3 off-site, where 27 parking spaces are required. In contrast to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-2189, subsection 9, property located at 356 Palm Avenue, Hialeah, Zone CBD, Central Business District, legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
All right, Caesar, quick question on this one. So is this is the same situation? We want to allow a school, right?
It's a daycare and we're getting the conditional use permit for 2 classrooms, basically. That's it.
Okay, is this a standalone building?
This is a shopping center.
This is a shopping
On Palm
center?
Avenue.
2 blocks from here, right?
What?
The one right here. 2
Yeah,
blocks from
right,
City Hall.
two blocks away, a block away.
I just, 1 second, I just want to kind of.
It's been a daycare there since 2000.
It's in that shopping center, yeah. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
go ahead.
They have parking in the back, they have a drop-off area in the back, and they need to legalize some bays that they added without a permit. So, but it's basically recommended for approval.
Okay.
It's only one parking.
Yeah, no, I
there.
hear you, that's fine, all right,
The declaration of restrictions, the legal department's been reviewing it now.
sounds good. Council?
Motion.
A motion by VP,
everybody.
second by Monica, by Councilman Perez.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumnidor?
No.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for February 13, 2024.
All right, PC 6.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a conditional use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-181, to allow a vocational nail technical school with 16 stations, property located at 1290 West 49th Street and 1300 West 49th Street, Suite 1304, Hialeah Zone C2 Liberal Retail Commercial District, and C3 Extended Liberal Retail Commercial District, legally described herein. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Nail school, nail tech school. All right, council discussion. Motion by Councilman Calvo.
I think there's one right next door, though. Isn't there one right next door?
Same one that is.
Rosie's?
Uh,
Rosie's Nail Tech?
Roses, yeah, because
it's the same-
It's a nail salon and they teach some classes the same place.
But this is Rosie's school that she's
Yes,
expanding?
yes,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, a motion by Councilman
Second.
Calvo and a second by Vice President.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumnidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for February 13, 2024.
Excuse me, I'm sorry,
Yes,
through the
ma'am.
chair. Before meeting's adjourned,
The one more item, there's
Oh.
final decision.
Okay, one more item.
Yeah, final decision. Go ahead, City Clerk.
Proposed resolution approving the final decision of the Planning and Zoning Board, decision number 2023-09, granting a rear setback of 5 feet 1 inch, where 20 feet is the minimum required for the construction of a new terrace for property located at 3395 West 13th Avenue, Hialeah, zoned R1, one family district, and providing for an effective date.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion.
Motion by VP, second by Zoxy.
Ms. Perez?
Manager's recommendation approval with the conditions, right? And they're abiding by the conditions. Yes.
Mr. Tumnidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Councilman Pacheco.
Yes, I wanted to revisit what Brian was discussing about having adding something to
to our procedures in order for council members to have access to records without having to pay for them. And at that moment, I didn't second that motion. I'm going to be honest, I was immersed in something I was reading on the agenda. I would like to have the opportunity to go back to that.
Councilman Pacheco, we're done with new business though. So at the next council meeting, you're more than happy to do that. Right? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.